We now move on to our next session, HR technology and social media at work, a way to talent management.
It takes talent to spot talent. A tone deaf will never be able to appreciate the music of maestros. Only a seasoned jeweler would know that all that glitters is not gold.
Rightly said, Shilpa. Now coming back to our topic, social media. Social media has a democratized influence on changing the way employees, candidates communicate with each other. Both employers and employees need to find and build trust to social channels. We see the value and importance of social networks, particularly the content, collaborations, connections, conversations, and their correlation to talent management.
Rightly said. To substantiate what you said, Ankit, according to 2010 Social Recruiting Report, 83% of companies surveyed will recruit through social media network in 2010, and 92% of those companies that are actively hiring in 2010 will use social networks.
The chairperson for this session, Ms. Neelam Dhal, Associate Professor, Human Resource Management, Jagan Institute of Management, Rohini. Ms. Neelam Dhal is an MBA and a postgraduate in psychology from University of Delhi. A brief stint at Industrial Management Academy, New Delhi. In training and management, she has been actively engaged in employee engagement and social media for last 10 years. I would now like to invite Ms. Neelam Dhal to please preside over the session.
Thank you, students. Hi everyone, and good afternoon to one and all. Do you know what is the biggest challenge post lunch? Can you guess it? To keep your audience probably awake. I think you guessed it right. But then we assure you we won't let you sleep throughout this session, right? I take this opportunity to chair this session on HR technology and social media at work, a way to talent management. Let me quickly touch upon the theme. As we leave the worst recession behind, talent management is on the rebound, and organizations world over need to take a step back and re-evaluate their age-old talent management practices. A question still remains: does my organization have the technologies in place to attract, retain, and probably engage the best of talent? And technology and social media in talent management have a lot of opportunity probably to contribute towards this. Many organizations have started leveraging this particular aspect in talent management. And to quote, HCL Technologies is one of the organizations wherein there are 7 to 10% of the total manpower which is being recruited through blogs and social networking sites. Well friends, that's not the end of the story. There is a lot more interesting in store for you in this session. Well, on that note, may I now welcome the first speaker, Ms. Archana Gulati. I welcome you, ma'am. Let me introduce Ms. Archana to you. Ms. Archana, an alumnus of SIBM, is presently AVP Corporate HR with Reliance Broadcast Network. She started her career in human resources with Taj Group of Hotels. In 2004, she moved to Sony Entertainment Television, now Multi-Screen Media, where she was responsible for talent management, employee engagement, and training. Having been exposed to hospitality and television, she then moved on to the online industry with Zapak Digital Entertainment, the online gaming portal under ADAG. She was a part of the founding team where she set up the HR system, processes, and policies, and has been an integral part in building the Zapak culture, as we already know, which is known for high energy and versatility. Zapak has also won many awards for its innovative HR practices. Credit goes to ma'am. Okay, with this, now I invite the second speaker, Mr. Uday Sodi. I welcome you, sir. Let me introduce Mr. Mr. Uday to you. Mr. Uday Sodhi, a postgraduate in marketing from Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies, is presently the Chief Executive Officer of headhonchos.com. I don't know how many of you are aware about this name. How many of you are aware? Okay, I guess many of you, being from HR, which is India's first career portal exclusively for senior management professionals, an initiative of ABC Consultants. Prior to joining headhonchos.com, he was CEO of Balaji Telefilms, new media business. He has spent the last 10 years of his 20-year career in the internet business. He was Senior Vice President Interactive Services at Rediff.com for almost 5 years. He has also worked in various senior management capacities with Netfo India Limited, Bosch & Lomb India and Madura Ports. He brings extensive cross-sectoral experience to the desk and is committed to positioning the new venture as the most specialized and preferred job search service in the online space. We are pleased to have you, sir, with us. We now invite the third speaker of this particular session, Mr. Sudhir. We welcome you, sir. I take the opportunity to introduce Mr. Sudhir to you. Mr. Sudhir is the CEO of Uniscape, one of the pioneering companies in social media consulting space. He did his graduation and post-graduation from Birla Institute of Technology. He has large experience in managing large social media campaigns. Before Uniscape, he has worked with PricewaterhouseCoopers, where he was involved in consulting on a large-scale technology-based transformation projects, both in private and public sector. We welcome you once again, sir. With this particular brief introduction of all the speakers, I would now invite Ms. Archana to start off with the presentation.
Thank you, Neelam. I know it's post-lunch session. Well, I plan to wake you all up with a movie, but strangely enough, we're doing a session on HR technology and we have problems with the technology here. So I can't take you through that, but I'm going to send the link across and we can take on from there. So, how many of you all are a part of social media networks? LinkedIn, how many of you are a part of LinkedIn? Oh, that's amazing. Facebook, that's even better. And Twitter, probably less. Okay, not bad. That's interesting. Alright, since I have to wake you all up, I thought I'll start with something like that. What is our view of social media? Normally, most of us, when we look at social networking, what is our perception? Is that it? Or are you more comfortable with this? Being in an HR fraternity. So what is social media? Social media actually essentially is about people having conversations or to know what's going on. Although inherently most people think it's a form where you can expose yourself to impress the others or to show off what you have or to be able to communicate when you're not able to in other forums. How does it help? I'll show you some interesting things which yesterday I picked up from my Facebook. Person XYZ is picking up new earphones. Instead of actually going out to different shops or going and checking, he just puts up a status and he has 19 comments. 19 people will tell him what to do. For an earphone manufacturer or a seller, this is where he can get involved. He comes in here, he has a person who he knows who wants to buy and he's going to get into that. For another person who's looking at getting an SMS plan, he's actually written that he's tried all the telecom companies. He wants to know what is the best SMS package. From a marketer's perspective, social media is where you need to be. Again, for another person who is unhappy with the certain services he's getting from a bank, he again puts it up there. So it's your branding as well that you can use. In fact, the ICICI Bank actually got in touch with this person and apologized for the services. You people now in companies actually have people who track social media and get back to them and work on their brand building. So if marketing can do this and it works for you building your brand, why not HR? Why can't we get candidates, build our brand, manage our talent with employees through social media? So I'm just going to take you a bit through how it really works. Some basic facts. And I'm going to take you through Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn, which is interesting. If Facebook was a country, its population would be number 3 in the world. That is the kind of network you have with Facebook. And most of us use Facebook, for friends or for contacts. Very few of us are actually using it from an HR perspective to manage talent. And we'll take you through how we can do that. Just statistics, it has 6 million users. In USA it's 300 million. In India it's 12. People spend over 700 billion minutes per month on Facebook. And can we tap that as HR people? Average user has 130 friends. That's another very important area to look at. In fact, the movie that I was going to play was going to show you how we can take use of that. Coming to Twitter. Twitter helps in building connections as any other social media site. It has more than 17 crores of registered users. Common forum for celebrities, business networking and news. It provides interesting web links. Microblogging is the main focus, wherein sharing of views and influencing. LinkedIn. LinkedIn, again, since most of us would be more aware of, it focuses on business and professional networking. It has more than 8 crores as registered users. Professional endorsements are common and can be looked at as hiring references. Career groups are active at facilitating connections. Job posts and applications are the most explored sections at LinkedIn. So now how can we as HR use these networks? We have 200 million users, fastest growing age group of 35 plus. Now most of us again think that Facebook is for the yuppies, for the young ones, but actually if you go back and look at it, we have enormous potential in tapping from there. So you can build and enhance professional relationships, source candidates. I don't know how many of you have ever tried, you've seen a person, you got basic information. If you actually send them a message without being a friend, your response is 90%. Send them a message on a job opening or a talent hunter mapping or a reference, 90% of them actually respond. They may not be your friend, but when it comes to a professional setup, that's fairly high. You can also research about candidates. I remember a couple of years back when we didn't use LinkedIn that much. We had someone sitting out for an interview, you got the person's name and details. We'd actually go on Facebook when it was a little more open, you could access more information and you'd know how much they were talking. Spy on employees, is that what we want to do? I'll tell you a very interesting story. We used to have an associate with us who, when I was with a media company, and there's a huge media sort of a conclave happening in Goa, where she really wanted to go for. She didn't get leave. So basically 3 days before she wrote that she's fallen ill and she's not going to be there. A week later on Facebook there were pictures of her at the party there. And all of us accessed it, although we didn't do much. But it's very interesting to know where your employees are, what they're doing, to understand about what they do. You can join and participate in industry professional groups. Employment branding, create a company fan page. I don't know how many of you have seen the Viacom 18 page on Facebook. You must log on to it and see it. So they've actually created a career site through Facebook and they've written about the different areas of like MTV and Nick and everything else. And you have people from competitive TV industries who are actually fans there. So that really builds a strong band. For me to see that, okay, there's someone from Sony or there's someone from Star who's actually saying a like at the Viacom 18 career page says a lot about what they're doing. So that's another area that we could tap. And there's several cool applications to promote your jobs. Again with Twitter, it is 1382% year-on-year growth. So Twitter is something that's really catching up and most HR people are not really tapping that. So it's a microblogging site. You can put in one-liners or two-liners. You can actually follow your thought leaders. Most people go on Twitter to follow celebrities, but there's a lot that as HR professionals, as people what we want to tap, or even build our employer brand that we can go through. Again, you can source candidates, build relationships. You can link them to your job postings as well. LinkedIn, again, what most of us would probably be using. 50% of hiring in digital companies in US is done via LinkedIn. And I would say about a fair amount of 5 to 10% in companies that I work with, we're also using LinkedIn a lot. Another place you can use LinkedIn is we normally go through placement consultants for recruitments. You have a candidate who's coming through a consultant, the consultant's probably given you a reference, but you want to go further. You can actually go log on to their profile and you have a lot of references there as well. So maybe you're not directly hiring through LinkedIn, but people who are coming in to meet you, there is a source in front of you where you can assess. You might have some connection with those people, you can pick up the phone, call that person, ask them what they have to say, you get a more genuine and real feedback from someone you know. Again, LinkedIn can link you back to your corporate website. A lot of people have their corporate websites on LinkedIn. You have recruitment benefits, engagement, community. You can also make sure, again, for an employer branding perspective, that you have a great company profile on LinkedIn, because a lot of people who log on to LinkedIn actually look out for job postings, look out for employer branding, look out at companies as well. So essentially, using social networking tools, we can do a lot of more activities beyond what we look at. We can also get a lot of information. We can enhance productivity, communication. It also helps in one is for externally getting candidates on board, but internally as well. Your own people are a lot more vocal when they are outside the office, and Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn is an experience outside the office. You can actually tap what is happening within your organization by just reading their Facebook statuses. Again, we have a couple of examples where there was a disgruntled employee who actually put up a status saying something about a company. And this was someone I know, and the HR actually walked up to them and asked them what is really the problem and actually resolve the issue. So he didn't really walk into the HR or come in, but through an external medium, you actually understand what is happening with your own people. Okay, again, I don't have the videos, but I'll probably share the links with you. That was essentially about social media, and now a bit about HR technology, which we're more comfortable with. So you have various means of HR technology, so they help you in communication. You must have a strong intranet in your organization, which gives accessible information, whether it's about your employee policies, it's about processes, maybe your learning center. So intranet is a very interesting technology tool that HR people must use. You also have employee transition tracking systems, you have an ESS. You can get into technology on training. E-learning again is an area that not many of us really access, and what is interesting about e-learning is that you don't need a physical space and time. Everyone can get on and get certified or trained at their own space and time. And lastly, again, with employer branding, like I said, you have to have career sites. You can actually have employee satisfaction surveys using various HR technology models. That's it for me. I'll share the links of the videos. If anyone has any questions, I think we're taking it at the end. Thank you so much.
I think Archana, you did a wonderful job, and it was indeed an enlightening presentation and a lively presentation too. Okay, now I would like to invite Mr. Ode for his presentation.
So we had asked this interesting question at the beginning of Archana's presentation. So I take that question to the next level, and she asked, how many people had Facebook accounts here? How many of you post some stuff on Facebook? So how many of you put a status? That's a lot. Very, very overview. How many of you use Twitter to post stuff? How many of you follow Mallika Sharawat? That is a lady laughing. Okay, this question is only for guys. And there are so many liars here. Okay, now that we are awake, we can get along. Okay, so some global hiring, recruitment trends. Let's get on with it. Obviously, we all know there's going to be a shortage. There is a shortage of key skills. Yes, recession, no recession, there is a challenge to find good talent. All of us in HR are, looking for the right people. We're looking for hiring the right people. Obviously, mobility is becoming a huge thing. People are moving from one place to the other place. We were discussing, both of us have moved from Bombay to Delhi. We are both working here. So it's becoming easier for people to move. Talent is something that is now driving companies to make sure that they get the right talent. So all these things are going to stay. Recruiting, we have to believe that recruiting is now going to be internet dependent. There is no option if everything else in terms of media time, in terms of what you do is going towards the internet. There is no option that recruiting will also move to the internet. And strangely, while talent is global, recruitment is local. So you can only recruit for your local area. So that's how interesting it is. and it's becoming important that you use the entire spectrum of what digital media or internet offers you to find the right talent. Now, there are various things that you do when you use the internet. It's not only about, do I use Facebook and it's trendy to use Facebook today, so I should put something on Facebook. Yes, it's trendy to use Twitter, so I should do something on Twitter and figure out what to do. But what are you trying to do as an HR person by using the internet? You're trying to make sure that when you have an opening or when you want talent, you can dip into that pool and be able to pick out the talent. So all your objectives as an HR person should be to create a community of talented people so that when you have any requirement, you can dip into that pool of people and bring out the person that you're looking for. So if that's the objective, then I think you'll be able to get stuff out of it. And obviously, these are the old marketeers used to be the people who used to sit in product management and marketing people, and now it's people. So you and I now are the real marketing people. And why are HR people now considered more intrinsic to marketing? Because large companies are hiring large people. So, at head on shows we talk to a lot of big companies who have huge hiring plans, and we made a company like TCS and they said 1,40,000 employees. 1,40,000 employees. That's a big company. And they have a BPO which has some 35,000 people. So imagine how many people are there. And if they're hiring, they're looking at hiring 20,000 people. So, look at the scale at which they're trying to do things. Now, if the HR department takes on the responsibility of being the owner of the company brand and can market the company correctly out there, the kind of talent that comes into the company takes the company to the next level, which is exactly what the marketer is trying to do. He's trying to build an organization which takes the company to the next level. So therefore you have to take your role much like a marketing person's role and say, I am building brand equity for the organization and therefore getting the right talent. So why are the HR departments not so friendly with technology? And I can ask that question, but I don't want to embarrass anybody. We all know the fact that HR departments are probably one of the last one to adopt technology. Am I making a very, very strong statement here? Okay, thank you. I thought somebody would me. So HR departments are normally the slowest off the block when it requires adoption of technology. Now, why would that happen? Okay, so we all have been trained in such a way, no, don't do it. The more you spend time on social networks, internet, you're wasting time. Because that's what we're telling employees. Okay, so if you're caught doing that, you're not doing the right thing. Okay, so then there'll be an IT fellow who says there's a security risk. Okay, so these are all excuses. These are all excuses to say, no, I will not use it, I will not handle it. And HR departments don't like free conversation. Okay, finance also doesn't like free conversation. Okay, let's balance it out. Okay, so most HR people would get very uncomfortable if people on social forums will ask strange questions about the company, about compensation, or I didn't get that and I didn't get that. So even if you look at open houses in most companies where a senior manager will come across and HR people are wondering what question is going to come. Okay, that means my boss is going to catch me after that and say, why didn't that happen properly? Okay, so you all like managed environments and managed conversations. Okay, so the minute you get onto social network, believe me, there will be complete hell will break loose. Because all sorts of strange things will happen when people will put comments out there. However, there's the difference. The difference is in this, it's important that we have a conversation with a larger media or larger set of people. What social media does is it changes the perspective of saying it is a general broadcast to answering my question. So a candidate likes the HR person if he says he's answering my question and he's not generally putting an FAQ out there. An FAQ nobody reads. Okay, when was the last you read an FAQ? Okay, nobody reads FAQs. But if you answer relevant questions asked by people, they believe that this is a responsible HR department who's answering. It's part of brand equity that you're building for your organization. So, this is my 3 simple steps of adoption of technology in your HR department. 3 simple things. Devise a clear-cut strategy to use technology. Okay, don't just jump saying, okay, somebody in the seminar said use Facebook, so I'm going to start using Facebook. What is your objective? Then decide the tool. Okay, so first decide what is your objective. Do you want to create a pool of talented people whom you will dip into later? Do you want to give out a message and leave the talent pool management and recruitment separately? Are you in a brand building mode and therefore you just want to manage the message? Based on that, make sure you have a clear-cut process, you have a clear-cut guideline on how to implement strategy. Now these guidelines are important because life will go out of control the minute you step out from our cozy corners. Okay, so you must have clear-cut guidelines. The guidelines must be signed off by your bosses. Okay, because you have to make your CEO aware that there will be problems. And when we get off a tried and tested system, there will be issues. So you have to make sure that happens. Third, identify a team to provide training and budgets. Okay, just because Facebook is free does not mean you will start using it and it will work for you. It just doesn't work for free, and sure we will delve on it, that how expensive is it to manage a social network or a social network community. It is an expensive thing. You have to allocate budgets, you have to allocate people, otherwise it doesn't work because you will have some questions coming on it, you need to answer, you need to have interaction, you need somebody to write content, you need somebody to interact with consumers on a regular basis. And as a thumb rule, try, whatever you do, try and target and encourage the first early adopters to come on board. Don't try and do a mass scale thing. You will find a lot of people don't get onto technology very quickly. So you have to try and see which age group or which type of people will get on first. Okay? So simple formula, try and target the tech savvy younger group. Okay? So whenever you're trying something, just make sure that people who are comfortable with technology, you target them first. Don't try oldie fuddy-duddies like me, because we can't handle new things. Okay, so try and target the people who are younger age group. They'll be able to adopt technologies. Google does this very effectively. When they launched Gmail, I think a generation ago, they called people only by invitation. Now, calling people by invitation had a couple of other objectives, but one of the objectives was that they started seeding it with people who they knew were technology enthusiasts and were people who were ready to try new things. So they sent it out to 100,000 people who were technology enthusiasts, who were coders, programmers, who were ready to try new things and will rip it apart. And they knew their friends are going to be also similar people. So when they send out invites, they'll send it out to the same gene pool. Okay, so when you're doing something of this sort, make sure you target the right people and you don't go after the wrong audience, because all of that you will be sitting on a promise that you deliver to your boss and it doesn't get delivered. So let's go through the tools. Obviously, one of the big tools which you must use or one of the things that you have on your platter, and please, based on your strategy, decide the tools, is LinkedIn. And much has been said about LinkedIn, 66 million users, 5 million in India and growing rapidly. Bulk of them in India probably male, but it's fairly balanced. Look at the age group. So skewed toward 30-35 plus age group. 70% of the people use LinkedIn for job hunting to find potential employers. Okay, so that works very well for people who are looking. So what do you do on LinkedIn? Okay, so what are the things that you need to do on LinkedIn? How many of you have tried creating a group on LinkedIn about your company, about little openings about in your company? Okay. That's a small group. So do you end up using your own company site to do most of this? Or internal? Okay. So that's like saying, okay, so they handle the company. Okay, so someday you need to grab it from them. Someday you need to grab it from them, because that's part of branding from an HR perspective and not from corporate communication. Corporate communication, you should tell them to handle the other stuff. If 70% of the people are using LinkedIn to find a prospective employer, then the HR department needs to be out there talking to users, because the corporate communication person does not know what to answer in that scenario. He doesn't know what to tell or what is the employer or what is the employee, prospective employee looking for. So it just goes the wrong way. Okay, so I think if there are more such places where corporate communication is handling sites like LinkedIn for you or corporate blogs for you, I think you need to get hold of a CEO and knock him around and say, please, right, be sensible about it. Okay, so this is about Facebook, and much is said about Facebook. So, but I found 2-3 things interesting. 500 million active users, probably now 600 million before I finished the presentation. 1 in 13 people on earth have an account on LinkedIn. Okay, so on Facebook. 48% of 18 to 34-year-old people check their Facebook right when they wake up. So the first thing people do, the first thing half the people do in that age group before they brush their teeth is to check Facebook. Okay, and about 28% check it from their Blackberries or smartphones or iPhones or whatever before they go to sleep. Okay, and most of us are employing people in this age group, right? So you know what time to send them a message. And 48% of young Americans said they found out news through Facebook. And you said you had a news portal, or you went to Ajtak, or wherever you went. So half the Americans are now looking for news or finding out news through a social way. And it will happen here. So it's only a matter of time. Okay, we're probably 3-4 years behind aging. That happens there because the numbers are much higher, the volumes are much higher. But half the news happen there. So, how much conversation happened about Japan on our Facebook pages recently? Okay, and everybody's put a little candle, send out messages, my friend, this happened, that happened. It's all news, isn't it?
And Bahrain and Libya. All together.
Okay, so Bahrain and Libya is an absolutely different level altogether. Yeah. Okay, so probably in markets like Bahrain, Egypt, Libya, they probably had no other source of information. So what do you do on Facebook? So it's important. It's obviously that many number of things that you can do, but the interesting part is make sure that you manage good company page or a fan page out there on Facebook. So Twitter has obscene number of users. Twitter get 3 billion requests every day. I mean, these numbers, if I would put zeros, they'll probably just occupy this place. 180 million unique visitors. This is the most difficult platform to handle. Okay, so people who've used Facebook and have used LinkedIn will find Twitter the most difficult place. How many of you actively use Twitter? Okay, first of all, putting anything in 140 words, most of us is a nightmare. Okay, we love to talk, we love to say things. 140 words just doesn't work for us. Okay, we love the SMS, and now most of us are sending out SMSs which go into 2 messages and stuff like that. 140 words just doesn't work for us. We still don't understand the strange lingo that Twitter has. Some of us do, some of us don't. So when you do Twitter, just make sure that you act as a real person. It's important to be what you are on Twitter because people follow you for that. You can get into all sorts of other stuff on Twitter, but I think it's important to make sure that you are there. Blogging is an important thing. How many of you run HR corporate blogs? Which company do you work?
Infosys.
Okay. So the trendsetters are here. I think it's important that we we make sure that we have HR corporate blogs. Okay, the HR corporate blogs are different from the blogs which product managers will write related to their products. They will give product updates. Marketing people will write about their marketing programs, events, and stuff like that. So the focus for HR should be what does an employee want from me? What is the engagement that an employee wants from me? And therefore, what do I keep feeding to that set? So, what kind of stuff would Infosys put on a corporate blog?
I think various issues get discussed in terms of policies to...
Is it more internal or external?
Internal.
What's it,
It is,
internal?
it's a huge group.
Obviously, internal is also like this.
Yeah, more than 1 lakh people are there.
So,
only for internal marketing.
I am sure most bloggers would die for 1 lakh followers. So fair enough. So that's you're talking from an internal perspective. I'm saying internal is one TG. Obviously, external is a larger TG because I am now saying if you had to take an external blog and say if Infosys had 5 times the number of people who are interested in joining Infosys, you could communicate with them exactly the life at Infosys could be an interesting perspective to present to people outside.
Sorry interrupting you here, but if you were to put that blog outside, say the same thing outside, it could be a disaster.
It may not be.
It could be.
It could be. Anything can be a disaster, but it may not be.
It was 17% actively disengaged blog.
So, tell me again, I'm just trying to understand what could be the challenge.
See, it will work both ways. Positive
So, obviously,
and negative.
anything which is out there in the public will work positive and negative.
Yes.
Okay? The chances are that if you are communicating positive stuff and you're talking about, genuinely talking about life in your company, very few people will put negative stuff. It requires immense amount of guts to put positive stuff out there and do positive comments on a blog. So for every 1,000 people who read anything on a blog, 2 people will comment. To make a negative comment, you need hard steel. Okay, so
we had a similar situation some time back, in which there was a group made against one of the initiatives rolled out on Facebook, which did some sort of disaster.
democracy.
Even political
That's what I
parties are
meant.
doing
Revenue earning companies cannot follow democracy, not beyond an extent.
So these are challenges we have to handle, and I think as HR managers, look at the larger view of saying, what are we trying to do this for? The idea is you're trying to do this for making sure that you have a far more open conversation with the larger set of people who in future will become your prospective employees. So say for example, if I was in your case, I would have a blog for engineering students. Okay, so your biggest TG is, for example, engineering students, and that 3 years or 4 years of engineering that they live through, if I can do messaging to them in that 3 to 4 years on how to handle, don't worry about jobs afterwards, just finish your engineering on time, just do this, do this, do this, and people who passed out engineering were writing, 2-3 batch senior people were writing on it and guiding people. The bond that you build with the people, when you go and hire, see what happens. Okay. My opinion, and sure we'll disagree on it. Yeah. So go on this. Obviously, company sites, career sites is a huge, huge effective tool to reach out to prospective candidates. And I find a lot of companies have career sites, but not too many manage them effectively because we don't update them. Okay, not everybody has the ATSs in place or the tools in place to manage them. So you have to go to a corporate department and say, "Can you please upload this job?" Brilliant. Okay, and then there are job sites. There are job sites which are used. A lot of job sites are used for corporate branding. Most of the job sites now give very good corporate branding solutions, which allow people to follow them, to see what is happening in those places, what kind of jobs are happening, to share what are the new projects which are coming out. And I'll take 2 minutes to do a shameless pitch on Head Honchos. So Head Honchos is a portal for senior management hiring. We just make sure that we hand screen most of the stuff that comes on Head Honchos. We hand screen each person. We talk to each candidate who's listed on Head Honchos. We've got about 250 companies now hiring on Head Honchos. Before I just go too far about it, we move on. Some of the companies who are hiring using Head Honchos. That's my email ID. Please feel free to connect. Thanks.
Well, thank you, sir, for such an interactive and well-thought presentation. The facts which you have just shared were really an eye-opener. And now we welcome Mr. Sudhir to start off with his presentation, sir.
Am I audible? Is it better now? Yeah. So, a lot of people from HR. So I think what Uday and Anjana were asking was how many people use Facebook, how many people use Twitter, how many people use LinkedIn. I think more pertinent question. How many people here have actually social media guidelines? How many of the organizations here have social media guidelines for employees? Infosys has very few. I think considering that everybody uses social media, the number of people who have social media guidelines is a little bit less. Why I say this is, there are two reasons. One is, obviously we understand and appreciate that most of your employees in some way or other will use social media. They're using it for their personal purposes, they're going to talk about your company also, they're going to use social media anyways. If you do not have a social media guideline, it does two things for us. One is that the organization structurally does not believe how to use social media. In terms of its utility, we will see it in some of the slides here. There's no doubting about it. How it is to be used is something that every organization is trying to learn. But if we do not have social media guidelines and the kind of apprehensions that we are talking about right now, they are really, really exposed. So I think as people who belong to the HR fraternity, I think this is something really important that we should look at, that we should have social media. And then again, two benefits. One is it will make social media very structured in your organization, how to use it, what not to do. Employees are aware, so you're giving them a freedom to do. So which probably when we said that, why don't we take this blog outside, and what does the blog outside mean, and what is my expectation out of my employees. So the benefits are large, and we need to communicate with the employees that these are the benefits that we have. Two small examples, and Dr. Goyal is left, and I was talking to him. Satyajit Ray, when he first went to France with his movie called The Pather Panchali, he said he was one of the Indian directors, small movie, nobody wanted to see. This is a pretty filled hall. His movie was seen. There was nobody who had come out to see that movie. So there was this French writer who had, one of those serious ones. He came down, he saw that movie, and next day when he wrote in his newspaper, he said, one of the greatest documentaries on mankind. And that movie was sort of screened again. Those days there was no Facebook, no Twitter, nothing. So there was no way to spread that word of mouth. And since he was a great writer, everybody followed him out. They trusted him. And since they trusted him, people came back to see him. What social media has done for us is it has created this large circle of influencers, people whom you trust, people whom you believe, and when they write on the internet, you tend to follow them. Like say, for example, for Twitter, when you go to the social media sites, you will find large number of examples on how GM could avert a literal HR problem by using, Scott Adams has become a famous man because of that. How those people, sort of used the influence of X number of people within the organization to control which could have been an HR disaster. So he was being followed up by a lot of people within the organization. So he was sending messages, people were retweeting it, and when I say, for example, retweet and you trust me, you believe that this message is true. As again we say that when we are talking about within the organizations, and larger organizations specifically, the amount of rumors that flow within the organizations is much larger than the number of truth events that follow. And that's because what the CEO is saying and what is the last line of employees, there is no communication between them whatsoever. So company X is wanting to sell off its plant number Y. So somebody put that word in, everybody, all the employees of the plant are worried, what do I do? I think it's getting sold out. And then the stories, I was there with that fellow and he told me that, tomorrow, yesterday evening, there was this final dealing that has happened, and we talked to the CEO, he said, which plant are you talking about? I've never, we are thinking of investing in that plant.